Hi there. For the second part of this tutorial, we'll be talking about color theory. And when we talk about color theory, we're going to have to discuss first what color basically is. So, when we talk about color, we can divide colors into two broad categories. Number one would be warm colors, and number two would be cold colors. Now, what do these mean? Apart from just the visual aspects of it, colors also evoke feelings. So when we talk about warm colors, that could be shades of red and shades of orange, sometimes shades of magenta or purple as well. And when we talk about cold colors, those are the colors what those are the colors that you basically find in nature. So you've got the seas, you've got the sky, you've got the forests or grasslands. So greens and shades of blue. Now, keeping that in mind, when we're creating brand identities, we need to create or we need to choose colors that are appropriate for the vision of the brand or the type of industry that we're working in. So, for example, if we are talking about a spices brand, a spices manufacturer, right? It would be a good idea to go with the color red. And you must have seen a lot of examples of those. So, moving on, what you're seeing on your screens right now is a very basic example of a color wheel. You can find these color wheels in almost all content creation softwares or design softwares as well. Now, the color wheel comes in really, really handy when we're creating brand identities because, as we discussed earlier, when we are choosing the colors for a brand, we can choose a primary color, which is, let's say, the color red for a spices manufacturer, but we're also going to have to find complementary colors. So that would be the secondary color or even the accent color. So a total of 2 to 3 colors are very common when creating brand identity guidelines. Now, how do we choose what colors to go with and what colors we should avoid? Well, that's where the color wheel comes in. There are a few key fundamental concepts that you need to learn when creating uh, color schemes for different brands. What you're seeing on your screen right now are some of the concepts that are very common when choosing color schemes. Number one is the primary colors. Now, primary colors, uh, by the way, we're going to see examples of each one of these later on in this tutorial. So I'll just go over all of these quickly. Number one is the primary one. You've got you basically divide the color wheel into three equal categories, and then you pick a color from each of those categories, and you've got a nice color scheme that works well together. And then you've got complementary colors. Complementary colors are basically colors on the opposite side of the color wheel. They work really well because they have a lot of contrast. However, sometimes you need a brand that's not that sharp. The contrast needs to be less sharp over there. You need colors that blend well. And that is where the split complementary colors come in. What are split complementary? Basically, it's just like complementary colors, but the colors that we choose are right next to the ones that are actually complementary to the primary color scheme. And then we've got analogous or uh, monochromatic color schemes, which are shades of the same color, which sometimes lighter, sometimes darker. Moving on, let's look at a few examples of each of these color schemes. Number one is Mountain Dew, a brand that is very out there, that is daring, that is energetic. And that's why we've got a very strong contrast between the colors. So we've got green and we've got red. Number two, we've got split complementary. Split complementary still has a ton of contrast, but it's not as sharp as primary color schemes. So the logo of Fanta is a very good example, and the logo of FedEx is also a very good example. Then we have a very good example of the primary color scheme. Even though we've got three very different colors, they work really well together in the Burger King logo. We've got the red, we've got the yellow, we've got the blue. So keeping these in mind, uh, these are some of the very fundamental rules that you need to keep in mind when you are beginning your journey as a brand identity designer. And there are certain rules that you need to keep in mind and certain colors that you need to avoid. It is really important to create a contrast, but also very important to work on the hierarchy of the image and make sure that the colors are not overlapping each other too much because, well, you're seeing the logo right here. It's very good, but it's also very simplified. If you're using too many colors, it's important that they don't overlap each other because when you are printing them on billboards, when you are creating merchandise, or even when you are creating web pages, but the logo size is very small, it's not going to be very legible if the colors are overlapping each other. So it's important to segment the colors and to create a symmetry so that the logo is still legible and looks good no matter what size you're printing it at or what medium you're printing it on. Fanta is also another good example. Even though the colors blue and orange are used, we've increased the contrast by using a white outline around the blue text. Same with the Mountain Dew logo. So keeping these things in mind, it is also important to know which colors to avoid. So, for instance, if you are creating a logo with, let's say, magenta and orange, it might not look very well, or sometimes the colors just don't go very well together. A very good, a very good example, or a very good tool that you should keep in mind is, well, let me show you. I'll give you an example. It's called coolers.co. This is a very good generator. When you open this up, you can just get different color ideas for inspiration. Some of them might work well, some of them might not work well. For instance, these colors, they might have certain applications in certain illustrations, but this color scheme would not go very well as a brand identity. Same with these. However, these two colors, if we're talking about the yellow and the gray, these go very well together. And then we can complement these. The yellow could be our primary color, gray could be our secondary color. And then for our accents, we could use shades of beige. So using this brilliant resource, I think it becomes even more easy for budding designers to come up with new ideas and play around with different concepts in a very quick manner. And yeah, I think this is something that all of the students of this course should practice and come up with different concepts or come up with different color schemes that they think would go well for their potential brand. When we talk about the quizzes and exercises for this course, we'll come back to this application and we'll discuss it further.